contrastive focus. If for some reason we want to draw attention to some part of our message, then we can always do so by moving the nucleus onto a different place. And this means that we can play around with these patterns and perhaps obscure the basic difference between the compound and phrase. So we say frostbitten, as we've seen, compound, nucleus on the frost. But if we wanted to make a contrast between frostbitten and frost damaged, then we can do so by shifting the nucleus onto the bitten. So we might say, well, not frostbitten, but frost damaged. That's a special stress pattern because we're doing this contrastive stress. Equally, in my room I've got running water. Water that runs, running water, adjective plus noun. But if I want to emphasize the adjective, running water, not stagnant, running water, not stagnant, and then that sounds like the pattern of running shoes. Right, so we can override, that is, change the pattern if there is some pragmatic reason for doing so, some contrastive stressing. This makes it very complicated to elicit patterns from native speakers, because as soon as you draw their attention to something, they're going to focus on it, and this may cause them to use a different stress pattern than is usually the case. One of these phone-ins I was in last week, earlier this week, somebody was complaining about people not distinguishing the pronunciation between affect and effect. Of course, they were using artificial pronunciations to do so, because what they were complaining about was people who say effect for both words, instead of saying effect and effect. You get that? In other words, they wanted people to maintain the difference in weak vowels between affect and effect. Now this is going. Fewer and fewer people make this distinction. They say affect with schwa for both of them. Well, I belong to the minority who retains this distinction. This is a great help when one wants to be able to spell, because people often make spelling mistakes about these words. All I have to do is think how I pronounce it and I know how to spell it. But clearly my students don't. They pronounce them the same way, so they get confused about the spelling. But this phone-in person, because she wanted to draw attention to the first syllable, shifted the stress onto it, even though it's normally a weak syllable. And therefore you had to use strong vowels and said affect and effect, which is an entirely, I wouldn't call it perhaps artificial, but an ad hoc, special pronunciation which the words have. And that's the same phenomenon as we have here.